All right, a couple more people there. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Still got a few people joining here. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Well, I hope everybody can see my screen okay. I'm going to talk a little bit today about virtual tours and how we can make the most out of them and how we can make sure that we're doing the best and representing our beautiful communities virtually as we do in person. Oh, sorry if you hear a little beeping. Those are Mary Jane, can you hear those beeps when people join? No? Okay. All right. Okay, good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sorry, there's people still joining. Okay. So we're talking about do's and don'ts of virtual tours, how to make the most of what we're doing on a virtual basis. My name is Michael Whitlow. I'm a senior regional manager with Greystone Communities. I oversee the healthcare in the healthcare group, and I work with CCRCs all over the country. I was looking for a good picture of myself, and unfortunately I don't have a good glamour shot of myself, so I included a good family photo. This is a couple years ago, and I think for those of us that have family, we can say, really a picture of us is a picture of our whole family, because we're a unit and we all work together, and they represent me and I represent them. So my beautiful family, obviously my wife is a lot better looking than me, and so I can agree with you guys on that. Asking questions during this session, you guys, on the bottom of your screen, you should see a little thing that says chat. If you guys have a question during or at the end, or a comment, please type it in there, and I will get to those questions at the end of the presentation. We talk about virtual tours, and I really think FaceTime for the iPhone or Apple products is the best choice. Why I chose that is, one is majority of the market is Apple at 49%. That's just iPhone users, not including those folks or family members that have iPads or Apple computers, or the Apple products that enable you to do FaceTime. Samsung really is the closest competitor at 20% of the market. So it's important to know that, one, you need to know how to use FaceTime, and I think that's really the best product to use. But if you do have an Android yourself, or your potential resident prospect does not have an Apple product, there are other options to use, and there's actually a guide. If you guys have not got it, we have tips and tricks for virtual touring, and I give you some options in there for other products that I believe are your best choices for your different platforms like Android. Looking good. What we want to do is, when we're doing a virtual tour, we want to make sure that it looks as professional as possible. We want to represent ourselves and our community the same way we would virtually as we do in person. And so there's a couple little tips and tricks to make ourselves look good. One is filming from above, right? Just like those kids at the mall, you know, they're the professionals when it comes to Snapchatting and taking little videos online, and they film from above their head because that really is a good angle. So you want to go slightly from above. You don't want to shoot down up. Another tip is try to use natural light when possible. And the more light you use, the better. Shadows or being in the dark really doesn't give a good representation through the phone, and so more light is better. Keep it simple, clean, and keep it solid. What I mean there is whatever environment you're in, try to have a solid background. Try to keep your clothing to solid colors. You don't want to do a lot of prints. You don't want things that are going to really take away from somebody looking at your face and paying attention to what you're saying. You don't want them to be distracted. Also, throughout the community and obviously the space when you're in your office or inside an apartment, you want to make sure that it's clean and tidy. This is an important one. Don't look at yourself. We all have that little camera up in the corner of our screen, and we have a tendency to keep checking out that camera and looking at ourselves and saying, you know, do I look good? How do I look? I promise you, you look fine. One of the interesting things, a percentage of people that actually, when they did a survey, they say that people lose trust when you don't have eye contact. And so it's important, even though it's difficult, to look at the camera and not at your picture in the right-hand corner. Another tip is to keep your distance. What I mean by that is when you don't want to be too close where it's just your face. You want to have a little bit more, maybe mid-chest and up. Obviously, if somebody can see your hands, that helps as well. Any sort of motion that we can add to the picture, to the video, helps it be more realistic. It helps people understand and feel what you're saying a little bit more. And the last tip for looking good is just relax. Treat it like any normal conversation. And the more of these you do, the more relaxed you're going to get. It's something that sometimes when we start doing it up front, we get a little bit nervous, and that's okay. But we want to try to make sure that we're relaxed and calm. Have a plan. It doesn't matter what we're doing in sales and marketing. We always have to have a plan. I encourage you to create an outline. It's easier to get lost in your thoughts if you're the one talking into a camera and somebody's not across from you responding to what you're saying and how you're saying it. So I encourage you to put together an outline of bullet points that you want to make sure you cover so you don't get lost when you're in front of the lights. 2, plan and trial run your tour routes. This is very, very important for a few reasons. One is if you're using an iPhone or an iPad or a device, you want to make sure that through your tour path, you don't lose your cell connectivity. You don't want to go walk into a stairwell or get in an elevator and lose that prospect on the other end of the phone. So really walk through and look at, are there dead spots? Are there spots that are dark? Are there spots that don't represent well? And I want to avoid those areas. Role playing, make sure that you do this. One way to really figure out where those dead spots are is to get on and do a live virtual tour with somebody that you're working with, a coworker, a regional, a manager, your ED. I encourage you to share this with your ED, and I think it could be a really good opportunity for your ED to see what you're doing and to see how the community presents itself in a virtual form. Another tip I have is to make sure you keep some of those frequently asked questions, features, and benefits or facts about your community handy. It's easy, again, to lose track or to get stumped a little bit easier when you're doing sort of video virtual touring. So keep those things handy. You never want to walk away from the camera and go get notes and come back. it makes you look like you're not prepared. So have those things very close to you, even though you already know that material well. It's a best practice to have those things close by in case those questions get asked. Now it's time to shine. You've done your planning. You know what your route is. You have your material ready. It's time to get out there and do it. We want to remember that sit, tour, sit still applies. However, the locations may vary. For instance, if normally I sit in my office and then my tour path takes me through an elevator or a dark hallway, I might want to start out sitting in the apartment. I might sit in a common area. Right now during this time, a lot of our common areas are empty. So that really opens up the possibility for us to use some of those common spaces to start our tour, then tour, and then go back and sit. When you're not touring, when you're sitting and asking those discovery questions and talking to your prospect, make sure your phone is secure. There's tripods, you can prop it up on books, but you don't want that camera to be bouncing around. It's really easy if the camera's bouncing around or there's a lot of movement for the individual on the other end of the camera to start feeling a little uneasy and really lose focus. When you're touring, when you start to tour, you finish your sit and you finish some of the discovery, try to stick to one camera view. By that I mean in the FaceTime app or other apps, you can switch the camera from pointing out to pointing towards you. My recommendation would be that you keep that camera pointed away from you towards the community, towards the hallway or wherever you're walking. The reason for that is if I'm talking and the camera's facing me and I'm walking, there's going to be some up and down, side to side movement, which we definitely want to avoid. The other opportunity you get with pointing that camera out is obviously the virtual touring. You're showing them the community. They're seeing what they would see if they would walk down a hallway or into a common area. It's important when you're moving and when you're showing rooms or panning a room or a common area that you give it around 3 to 5 seconds before moving to a new view. That doesn't mean that you point the camera at the bed and wait 3 seconds and point the camera at the window, but you want to scroll or pan in a way that allows the prospect to really see and have time to digest what they're seeing. So I suggest 3 to 4 seconds as you move through that touring and showing. The last thing on your tours when you're moving through is to be smooth. There are products out there like selfie sticks. There's also a sort of selfie stick that balances and maintains stability during your tour. I think this would be something great for each community to buy because I see us doing virtual tours obviously now more than ever, but going forward as well. Post-production, right? We did a great job. We planned, we were smooth. We made sure that our environment and our dress was pleasing to the camera. I say blend new school with old school. We're using technology. We're doing a virtual tour. It's important to follow up with your prospect with what I prefer is a handwritten card or letter, definitely an email and a phone call. Don't forget those handwritten letters right now are really pretty cool. I know for those of us at home, receiving something in the mail right now is really exciting, and it is for your prospects as well. While you're going through this process, it's easy to get distracted in showing and talking about what they're seeing. But don't forget, you are in a sales process. You're walking from somebody through the buyer's journey. So keep that in the back of your mind. How is this tour going to move my prospect and my relationship with this prospect forward? What are my next steps that I need to do in order to move this closer to a sale. And obviously, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. Make sure you document, document, document. I see this tool being used now very effectively. I believe if we plan and we do the right things, it can come off with great professionalism and represent your community in such a way that people will want to be a part of it. All right, we are going to move to some questions, and I'm going to check in here. Okay. Derek asked, would you recommend getting a Steadicam attachment? You can get one on Amazon for about $100. That would be much smoother and smoother experience. Absolutely. I think the Steadicams you can get on Amazon, looks like one's around $100. For the investment for your team, I think that would be a wonderful investment. I would also invest in a stand of some sort that each sales and marketer could have so that they could utilize and maintain that steady appearance when they're at their table or desk. And you want to make sure that those, you're getting the proper angle where it's coming in a little bit more from the top. So you don't want it down on your desk where you're looking up at your chin. Okay. Any other questions anybody might have? Okay. Do you recommend virtual tours if your community is wearing masks? And if so, maybe start in private. Okay. So the question is, if our community is wearing masks, people are walking around with masks, would I still recommend a virtual tour? I would. I would say that most of our hallways and public spaces, that would be part of that planning the tour. I would avoid capturing residents or showing residents during the virtual tour as much as possible. They haven't given consent for that. And plus, I think that really the prospects want to see our public spaces and our apartments. What's a good length of time to allot for a tour? Great question. Great question. As you know, most of us have an attention span that goes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the topic or the subject. You all have superior attention spans because you've been listening to me for about 19 minutes. So I appreciate that. I would suggest, and it's going to vary. I would say it's also going to vary depending on the point in time at which your relationship with this prospect is. So for instance, if it's somebody who is doing an initial tour and just wants to gain understanding, you might discuss that with them up front and ask them, do you have about 15 or 20 minutes for a quick tour? Be up front with them, let them know what amount of time they're looking at so that we don't get in a point and they go, well, I have to leave to go to the store. I have this coming up. I have to get off the call. So I would just say, I would try to stick between 15 and 30 minutes. Any more than that, it's going to be really hard for somebody to pay attention. What tips do you have for new communities that don't have a building to tour? Great, great question. I know there's some products out there that we can use that you can facilitate that do show some of the renderings and the videos that have been put together to show your community. So there are options to go that way with a different technology. The other thing is, I don't think it's bad if you're in your sales center and your community's not built yet to show them what's all in your sales center. Talk about the process and where you're working right now and have a conversation face-to-face instead of over the phone. It lets them know that this is what we're doing. Our sales centers are really beautiful and a lot of time and effort goes into making those special. So take that time to really show off what you've done there and also have a conversation with them. Definitely want to, somebody made a note, definitely want to, avoid things that are that don't appear well or represent well. And that goes back to planning, tons of good planning, and it can really go well. What about preparing a video tour or monologue of common areas that can be sent after a virtual tour of a unit. So putting some videos together that you can share with somebody. You can record video, obviously. There are some products out there that allow you to record those videos and package them in a way that comes off a little bit more professional than me just maybe taking a video on my phone. But I definitely would encourage you to look into some sort of video capability where you can package those very nicely, put that into an email, and send that to your prospective resident. I think that's great outside of this time for somebody really to get a custom video from you of an apartment. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive, but I think walking through there and putting some perspective with things that a video can do opposed to pictures is great. Somebody asked, what if you're working from home? Great question, right? I think if you're working from home, if you put yourself in a professional environment, it's okay to have that conversation again face-to-face instead of video. As far as being able to share what your community looks like and for people to really get a look at what's happening there, you could go the route of having somebody that's in the community. If you can't go back, take some footage and some videos of some open apartments and some public spaces. Or if you have a virtual tour that you've already done, you can share that with them. But I would encourage you, if you can, to continue working in your communities, to be able to take advantage of this virtual tour experience during this time. Let's see here. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. Oh, here's one. I've taken video recently of my phone and I've tried to send it, but have been unsuccessful because they are too large. Any suggestions? Absolutely, that's a common thing when we take a video on a phone and we try to send it. A lot of the times in your settings in your phone or your iPad, you can lower the video quality, right? We got 1080p, we got 720, and then there's also just basic standard. So what I would do, I would suggest two things. One is looking at the resolution for which you're shooting in. The second part is on your phone or iPads or computers, there's really very, very simple products out there that can help break up our footage, and we can choose some of the best shots and clip them together. Lots of options out there, but that's what I would suggest doing. Try to cut down the segments and use one of those apps to help you do that. And also make sure that your resolution on your phone and when you're recording is very low. On your phone, you'll see sometimes on the top, if you have an iPhone, you have a little circle, it's multiple circles. That means it's a live photo. So it actually takes a video. So when you send that, it's actually a larger file than just a picture. So take a look at some of those settings, and I'm sure we can help you out with that as well. Okay. After all this, any tips on overcoming an objection of, I don't want to commit until I can come out to visit? Absolutely. You know, there's a ton there, and I would encourage you guys, and that we could go into a whole lot of detail there. But what, in a simple terms, I would say you don't have to commit right now, but I want to show you what we're offering. I want to update you and educate you on what our community has to offer during this time. You know, processes and procedures. Everybody understands that we're doing things in our communities that are different than normal, and how we're handling those is really outstanding. So don't be afraid to share what your community is doing to protect your residents. That's a selling point. And if somebody's going to come join your community, they want to know that they're going to be safe not only in normal times, but definitely during a situation like we're in currently. Okay. Somebody said regarding the new development, Greengrass Studios is available to assist. So definitely look at some of those options. Some of our vendors out there, people partners that we use like Greengrass, have products that can help us communicate and show video of our communities. When we talk about that the stage where a community is not built yet and we're working out of a sales center, that's definitely a great opportunity to look into some of those tools that are out there. A couple more minutes here. We got about 4 more minutes. There is also another company out there called Arnold Imaging. They also have a similar product line. So take a look. This is a good time to educate yourself. We might have a little bit more downtime than we normally do. So take some time to put some thought into it and do some research. This is a good time for us to come up with new sales tools. And I really see this virtual touring going really gangbusters and really helping us down the line, especially when we have people out of state, prospects out of state, or family members. You know, I might be able to tour myself, but my mother or my uncle or my sister or somebody else who's involved in the decision process doesn't have the ability to do it in person. And so we might use that as a tool and say, I'd love to schedule a tour with that person, with that family member or loved one. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions. Got about 2 more minutes. You guys have been great. I appreciate everybody signing on. There's going to be more Greystone webcasts or webinars on different topics. So I encourage everybody to continue to sign in, continue to get on these, use this as a resource, and please reach out with any questions. We're here to help you and assist you. And also, love hearing the feedback when you guys are sharing your ideas about what's going on out there or ways that you guys have seen success in this difficult time. We'd love to see those. Continue to share those, and we'll share those with you as what we're seeing other places. So thank you guys very, very much for joining. Again, I'm Michael Whitlow with Greystone. If anybody has any questions, you guys can get a hold of my email and I can definitely send out my information. But I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.